Welcome to the Get Real podcast. I'm Austin, your host, and today we're going to be talking about an article that dropped today on the Amino Hardwood app. I'm also live streaming via the Amino Hardwood app. You can follow my content there and see what I'm up to. I try to live stream as much as I can there. I'm going to give a shout out to one of the big bosses, big names, big creators of content on the app. He just nicknamed this Gab. That's not his full name. I'll leave a link in the description below about what his content provides, and check him out. He's got good stuff. Now today he brought up a really interesting point, something that kind of makes you think, and just, I guess the basis of this question is, what is a championship player? How do we determine a GOAT? And this is just kind of news for anybody that's out there listening. There is no plaque set up in the quote-unquote NBA Hall of Fame to where they lower the rungs of players. There's no definite table of all-time players. It's all our speculation. It's all the fans who they think is. Otherwise, even professional players can't be so trusted with this, because you'll have guys like Dr. J, and who only pick guys from the 60s, and he'll tell you that Dr. J went on I want to say First Take a few years ago and said, I'm not picking out guys outside the 60s. So he'll have the Big O, Oscar Robertson, and a few other guys from that era there. Or even Robert Horry will put guys like Olajuwon. He says Olajuwon is 20 times better than Tim Duncan, if you can believe that. So it's all speculation, I guess, is the point I'm trying to send out. There's no definite thing, right? But this guy, he brings up a good point. How do we measure it? What does it mean to even be better? Now, I'm going to quote his article throughout, but also, I'll also just show what he says, and I'll bring it to the table. Very good article. Ex Machina, just about Tim Duncan and what he brought to the Spurs and also to the league, and how his success is how we should define pretty much any championship or any guy we claim as a GOAT. But I'll start pulling some stuff here on. It says, as NBA fans, we have shifted to the championship or bust mentality, that if you are not contending, there's no point in competing. And that's very true. Usually if you're not in the top three of each conference, people say, well, hell, you might as well tank then. What's the point? Then what are you doing? So here's the thing. Duncan gave the Spurs a 19-year window. Can you find another star that had a window that long, from year 1 to year 19? And after Tim Duncan's rookie season, he was 5th in MVP voting. Regardless of coaching, management, roster, no other star has had so little growing pains. No other star was winning as consistently as long as Tim Duncan. So this begs the question, why? Why was Duncan so damn good at winning? So this guy, he went and looked at every championship of the last 30 years for trends to see what was common in good teams. There are three types of championship teams: teams with multiple offensive weapons, teams with star defenders plus teamwork offensively, teams with two-way superstar who just go off the rocker, a la 94 Rockets. And then he also proceeds to say, so knowing this, what must a star do in order to help his team? Option 1, be an MVP caliber offensive player and solid defender. Option 2, be a defensive player of the year caliber defender and a great team player. And then option 3, be a two-way superstar and absolutely dominate. And he says he can see Kobe has 5 rings, Shaq has 4 in option 1, Scotty and Bill with the 6 and 11 rings respectively in option 2, and then Hakeem with 2 rings in option 3. And I think option 3 for Hakeem fits him perfectly, especially within those fans that he won a championship. Meanwhile, it goes on to say Duncan fits all 3 of these, which is evident in the fact that he has won a ring as every championship blueprint. 3 rings from option 1 in 99, 2005, and 07. 07's kind of iffy because Parker won Finals MVP, but still, I almost wonder if they got Duncan fatigue at that rate just because he was there constantly. 99, it was really tough. He was really the guy already immediately. The second practice, Pop will tell you that right when practice started happening, this guy, Tim Duncan, jumps in, moves Robinson out of the spot, and they just let it happen because it just worked so well. 2005 was a really tough year for San Antonio. They'd go up against the defending champs, the team that beat the 04 Lakers in 5 games, a team that consisted of, even though some of these guys are a bit older, Kobe, Shaq, Malone, the Glove, Gary Payton. It was just, people at the time thought that was a pretty stacked roster and thought that was kind of ridiculous. But Detroit, no joke, came in there, spanked them in 5 games, and then the Spurs were able to give them all they could handle and beat them in 7. And then people say, well, Monmouth hit the game-winning shot. Well, if you look at the play before that, Tim Duncan pretty much takes the board out of Popovich's hands during the timeout and says, hey, I'm going to kick it out to you if I get double teamed, essentially. I'm paraphrasing there, but that's essentially what he said. And that's exactly what happened. And MJ, it's kind of reminiscent of MJ saying the same thing as Steve Kerr. So Duncan should get some credit for that play despite Manu hitting that big shot. There's also great players who have a lot of great stats, put a lot of amazing numbers, but don't exactly put their teams in the best position to win. I mean, Wilt Chamberlain won 2 to Duncan's 5 despite being in an era with no salary cap and less teams, which should in theory make it easier for good teams to acquire talent. Obviously there are other factors at play and it's not overall play. So how do you explain the winningest player post-merger and pre-merger having similar play styles? How do you explain that in the last 5 decades 70% or more championships got split between 2 players? As well as 2-time champ Isaiah Thomas once said, the secret of basketball is that it's not about basketball. It's not just about an individual on-court play. It's about playing as a team, having a sense of structure. It's about building a culture. This is why some rings are more valuable for others. Take Steph and KD as an example. Who contributed more towards the two-peat? The man who built the team or the man who joined the team? A case can be made for KD provided on-court value. Overall, he doesn't even scratch Curry. Curry helped sacrifice that ego is where this paragraph is going. He was so secure with himself. He's like, you know what? I'm still going to bring KD in. And all of you say, well, that's just easy. It's KD. You do that naturally. A lot of guys aren't built like that. They can't handle giving that rock up to somebody else and having them risking taking the glory. Not many superstars, anyway, are built like that. But Curry, he's comfortable enough in his own skin saying, even if I don't get these finals MVP and Iguodala or Durant or maybe someday Clay wins it, it's all about winning in that moment. Just like how Duncan eventually, even when he didn't necessarily have to, pass that offensive torch to guys like Tony Parker, Manu, and then when they actually needed to, Kawhi Leonard. Those guys built their own culture. They can be coached in any way you want. You're watching how Golden State's falling apart right now. Is it a coincidence that Curry's not playing and this team is falling at the seams? They're tearing apart. I like to think that's not a coincidence. If Curry was there, maybe it wouldn't be perfect, but it certainly wouldn't be as bad. Because Golden State is dropping games. They do not have their leader. KD's the better player, but Curry is that culture. He's the calm voice. He's the one people listen to. He's the guy in that locker room bringing that team together. So, from that perspective, let's bring it back to the focus on Tim Duncan. Not many other players, if any, has helped his team win as much as Duncan can. I mean, Duncan built an empire. He hasn't just won with the best on the court. He is making everybody around him better on and off the court. We often attribute this to what we call the Spurs culture, the coaching and management, but deep down we know better. I'm gonna spit a few quotes at you via this article that show you kind of what the other people are saying. They will include guys like Sean Elliott, Jeff Van Gundy, Popovich. Jeff Van Gundy, 99. That guy is truly into winning. To me, he's not only the best player, but he's somebody that obviously San Antonio is going to have for a long time and be able to build around because of his unselfishness. That's Jeff Van Gundy. You can look at his stats, but I don't think that really tells the story that Tim Duncan means to this team, this franchise, this city. He's more than that. This guy encompasses everything that you want in an MVP. I've never been more impressed watching a guy every day and playing with a guy more so than I have been with Tim Duncan. That's Sean Elliott. And this is from Greg Popovich. Greg Popovich is a nice guy, but he's honest. And he will break every reporter's heart. He'll make them cry. He's had to make reporters cry. He's brutally honest. So this is what he said. Before you start handing out applause and credit to anyone else in this organization for anything that's been accomplished, remember, it all starts with and goes through Tim Duncan. That's what he said. And I know Pop loves the guy, but Pop's not going to kiss some ass. He's a hard ass, man. He's going to tell it how it is. So deep down, we know Duncan built that team. And I'm going to give one more quote from Tony Parker. That was our always secret weapon for me. You see this all-world player, this all-NBA first-team MVP of the finals, about to be MVP of the league guy, and here he is in practice willing to be coaching his fight for a spot on the team. It was unreal. And if you think that's too passive for a star player to be, well then you're not thinking it through on Tim's level, because Tim knew the truth, which is that you let yourself be coached in this way. You know, that's true charisma, and that's true swagger, and it's like he was challenging everyone else in our gym. The best player in the entire league is willing to put his ego aside for the good of the team. Are you? And I truly believe that Todd can control guys like Steven Jackson who came along and helped him out. If this guy is willing to get yelled at like he's some scrub on the 15th man of the team, he's willing to be taken to that level, be talked to like that, then why can't everybody else? and it worked for them, and it's been very successful for them. So with another star in place of Duncan, there is no Manu, there is no TP. Why do you think the greatest offensive players have no help so often? They choke their own team out, whether it's through cap space, egos. It doesn't happen all the time, but even if they last a few years, it's never a long-term thing. And people say, well, Tim Duncan had Manu and Parker. I love those guys to death. Manu's career average is like 12 or 13 points. If you look at those guys, I don't know by themselves, maybe Parker, I don't know by themselves they'd be considered Hall of Famers. Look at that big three compared to Magic Johnson's big three, Larry Bird's big three, MJ's big three. I mean, Duncan didn't have the Kareem, a Shaq, a Scotty, combined with Rodman, those other guys. He didn't have that level of talent. Parker and Gilby are great players. They're not that kind of caliber of players. They're simply not. But he still took those two guys and as the leader made them the most winningest trio, not in just regular season, also in the playoff season in NBA history. And that to me is insane. Some people will try to blow off some of those Spurs championships. 07, I get it. If it wasn't for the Spurs winning in 07, it probably was going to be a team like Phoenix, but you really wouldn't discredit Phoenix for that championship if they were that team. I don't think anybody would. They'd still see it as, hey, Steve Nash got a ring. 2014, just to quickly break down that roster had guys like Marco Bellinelli. He's fine, journeyman. Danny Green, second-round pick. Patty Mills, second-round pick. Do you know where those guys were picked from? Danny Green was picked by Cleveland and cut multiple times. Patty Mills, second-round pick by the Trailblazers, cut multiple times. These guys took forever to even latch on the Spurs roster. Boris Diaw, he was cut by the freaking, at the time, Charlotte Bobcats, who at the time had the record for the worst season in NBA history. The Charlotte Bobcats. Thiago Splitter, decent guy. It's Thiago freaking Splitter was Tim Duncan's front court mate. Kawhi that season, 2014, averaged 12 points per game. Tony Parker led the team at 16 points per game. That roster, top to finish, talent-wise, is not that crazy. But that leadership doesn't happen. That culture, that chemistry doesn't happen without Tim Duncan laying that foundation, then going on to beat OKC in 6, then beating Miami Heat in 5, and essentially beating LeBron so bad he ran home to Cleveland. So even though many people don't consider Tim Duncan the guy, and there's a whole lot of other quotes over missed, so I'm trying to give some material for you guys to look at for those listening on YouTube and on this live stream to check out. It ends up coming down with this, and you'll also see in that list all his all-time performances, even in his latter years. I mean, check this out. 2015 Game 7 against the Clippers, 27-11 on 69% field goal percentage. 2014 Finals opener, 21-10 on 90% field goal percentage. 2014 closeout against the Thunder, 19-17-2. This is when he's 34, going then proceedingly up to 37-38. That's crazy. He never really just fell off the map. He didn't retire early, he retired at 40. So people say, oh, he retired at a good time. Well, he still retired at 40. He didn't retire like at 35. He was an old man by the time it was gone. And a final thing. Back in 02 and 03, Tim Duncan had a nasty surgery that robbed him of his athleticism. He was still an effective player, but most injuries like that, they will tear a guy apart. So here's one more quote. I'm going to slip one more to you. It's from Greg Oden. Take it for what it's worth. Everyone's been telling me that as a big man, no matter how much I prepared myself, you learn your toughest lesson when you go down to San Antonio. The other day, former NBA player and Blazers assistant coach Monty Williams pulled me aside and told me that guy down there, meaning Tim Duncan, has had a surgery on his left knee. He can only jump about this high. He holds his fingers about an inch apart. He won't say a word to you, and he will bust your ass. Most players fall apart after such a massive injury. Duncan wins the MVP 2 years after it. Now, and don't forget, during those years when Duncan was uber athletic, he was like playing small forward at times. He was killing it. He didn't have a crazy shooting touch, but he was still just an absolute beast. So this comes down to, it's not something to convince you Tim Duncan's the greatest of all time, more as looking at the body of work, maybe kind of tweaking what really seems to you the good criteria for what makes a player the greatest of all time. What maybe this makes you think a little bit and maybe appreciate Duncan a little bit more, because these numbers, these stats, this level of success is something you're probably not going to see again in your lifetime. Because it didn't happen with the Lakers in one sitting, or the Magic, or even with the greatest player of all time, debatably in MJ. That level of success doesn't just happen rarely on an NBA level. How about in sports, period? So just jump into just something to think about. Let me know what you guys think. I'm going to go over some questions real quick, see what anybody's going on, just to peek up the comment section right now. Let's see. Okay, I got a comment from eMac90, a guy who joined me on one of my podcasts. Good stuff, take a listen to it. It's about Philly and their trade. He says, talk about KD losing without Draymond and Curry. I have a conspiracy theory that the Warriors are sitting them out to show KD can't win without him. That might be a good lesson. Obviously, I don't know if they're really losing without Draymond. Like I said before, I think they're really losing without Curry. I think they can more than lose Draymond and then use the extra cap space to fit in some more role players to pick up a bigger bench. I think Curry and his leadership on the bench and leadership on the court is what's killing him more. Outside of that, I don't really see anything. But leave some messages either on here or through my comment section on YouTube. Tell me what you guys think. Get involved. I like when you guys talk to me. I like hearing you guys' comments. Let me know if you hear a way to improve this. As always enjoy listening to you guys, hearing your thoughts. Thank you for listening in. This is the Get Real podcast.